Alright, welcome back everybody. It is time to finish this one. It has been sitting in the background on many videos for literally, I think, years now, and sitting there at like 95% done, and it's time to completely finish it. Now it may look like it's done, but it's not. I think that the chassis, let's go over that really quick. I think the chassis is done, except for, if you look at that white piece that's sticking through there, that's your sway bar. And I meant to show you on the instructions, and I found it there, and I looked it up, and I'm like, oh no, how on earth did I miss that? And it's because they literally have that particular step after that whole assembly is done. So you gotta stick it in there and weave it through, and then glue it down onto the upper control arm, and I think part of the brace, the roll bar there, after all that's in. And that's how I forgot it. So I have to paint that thing black. There may be some silver highlights or something like that, and then I have to weave it in there and scratch it up and then touch it up and glue it down, and that's the only part that's missing on that. It is a highly detailed kit. It's a great kit. Everything fit really good. I think there was one issue with control arms on the front, but I might be confusing kits. I have a piece of the roll bar down here that I'm going to have to look up and figure out how or where it goes and how to get it in there now that the whole thing is assembled, but no big deal. There are pieces left here. I've got to get these pieces in here. We got the side windows there and the headlight covers, and these parts, you know what they are. You're looking right at them. But definitely got to get those headlight covers on there. And then there is trim painting to do here. Very precise trim painting. You see the surround on the window there? Yeah, that's all got to be black. Very precisely painted black. This entire pillar here is going to be black. I'm seeing there on the box. No, we're doing this one. Also black. But most of the way done. I found we got the wing there. Took me a while to find these little pieces here. These are the supports. Talk about forgetting parts. Guess where I found those? Now over here on this side, the hobby bench, this is kind of where I toss all my old sprues. Or, eventually when I go to clear that out and throw all that away, I'll go through them all and make sure there's no parts on them that I want to keep or something like that. But that's where I found that sprue. I had thought it was an empty sprue and I was done, and I had thrown it away basically. But fortunately I found the little pieces, so we will paint those yellow, get those attached to the wing, and get the wing onto the car. Otherwise, all these little tiny clips, a lot of little tiny detail painting. Really got to have my detail visor on today. That little part's got to be silver and not blurry. And then we'll get all these things together. So not much to do. I have no idea what the next scene is going to be, but it's probably going to be a lot of detail painting and the wing on and so on. Hope this one's not going to be a half hour long, but I don't know, maybe. See you in the next scene. Okay, and so here we go. I'm going to be painting the trim here. Where am I? See that? That's going to be very precise stuff. And I just wanted to touch on something that I see a lot of people doing, and I've tried it myself, and it would be great if it works for me, but it doesn't. And I just wanted to mention what I'm doing here, and that is the Sharpie. The Sharpie doesn't work for me, and I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about here. I brought out this kit again because it needs some restoration. It's not even that old. And look at this. Look at the surround on the windshield. Look at that. Totally unacceptable. What that is, that's Sharpie. I had finished this and I decided I was going to be doing the trim on the windshield with Sharpie, and I did, and this looked great when it was done. But after sitting in the case or sitting anywhere for a number of years, this is what it looks like. And this is exactly why I don't use the Sharpies. And it was a real Sharpie, and I don't know. I've had some situations where it does look pretty good, like I think I did that door handle with a Sharpie, and that still looks fine, but this is why I don't use a Sharpie anymore. And so I just wanted to mention, I'm going to be using just a regular old testers. This is flat black. You put on flat black, kind of thick, and it comes off as a semi-gloss. And you know, I'm watching the scale modeling channel, watching Tom paint these things by hand like it's easy. I've tried it a few times and I'm getting better and better at it. And so that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm just going to be dipping it in paint with a regular fine tip. That's my fine tip brush right there. And that's it. And that's also where I'm going to be repairing this. And so, yeah, and in addition to it, the wet bikes here, if you look here, certain parts on there, like the whole top black piece, that was all taped off and painted with a spray can of some kind. But these little pads here, look at this. Same thing, I did those with a Sharpie and it's coming apart. So I have to do some restoration on these as well, so that's kind of a bonus on this video, is that we'll be doing some restoration on the Mustang. And that is that. I just wanted to mention that before I got started, is that all the trim paint is going to be done with enamel by hand. So forgive anything that looks like it wasn't done very sharply. Get it? Anyway, let's move on. Okay, so here's where we're at. It's going pretty well, I got to say. As you can see, I have the trim around the windows painted, and this was all just by hand. And as you can see, it's not perfect, but I'll get to that in a second. Now the windshield is not glued on there, it's just sitting on there. I could glue it on at this point. I think I probably will shortly. And then of course, and I'm just going to leave the back just like that. It looks pretty good because the inside of the window, the rear window, is painted with the black surround, so that looks good when that's on. Other than that, I have painted all the little clips, the little silver clips, all the way back there. And the exhaust plate there down at the bottom. And that came out nice. Also on the grill, I have painted the inserts there and re-glued the center light clear cover back on because it had fallen off. I'm going to put another coat. That is completely in the dark, isn't it? There we go. On the corner there, I'm going to put another coat of the amber, probably another 2 coats of the amber on the side marker there, because that's not covering completely well yet. Let me switch around to this side. So I wanted to show you what's happening with the an idea here. So as I just mentioned, I painted on the trim by hand, and it is a little blotchy, went out of the lines a little bit, and I've always been trying to figure out a way to clean that up, and I believe I've come up with it. As you can see, right down here is where I've been working on it. How close will it let me get? Pretty close. So what I'm doing now is I'm going along with an X-Acto, and I'm starting by going along long ways with the X-Acto. I don't know, I really don't think I can actually show that while filming, but I cut the line very, very lightly because you want to just cut through the black paint and not through the yellow. And then you go kind of sideways and you kind of try to scrape it off. And it's working pretty well. This blotchiness was all the way back to the back, and you can see where it's cleaned up. And that's working out pretty well because the car itself is covered in Future. and paint doesn't stick fantastically well to the future, so pretty much cutting the line just about has it separated, and then you just kind of flake it off. And so that's where I am there. And I know what you're thinking, you gotta paint that door handle, but according to the box and the instructions on both versions, the door handle is yellow. So we leave that the way it is. We just have, so I will be continuing to clean that up. Oh yeah, I had done this on the Mustang as well. That's the trim on the Mustang is all cleaned up now, or restored, however you want to say that. I know it's looking really terrible right there. I don't know if that's a glare or if I didn't, I don't think I covered. I need to go in there. Maybe I'll use a Sharpie. But also fixed on the front there. And I will try some of this X-Acto trick on that as well, see if I can get that cleaned up. Although that does not have future on it, so I don't know how well that's going to go. Also the wet bike's looking much better. Cleaned up. Restored. So that's good. So I just need to start gluing some stuff on. Got to get the number of different things glued on. The wing, for one. I've been working on those little tiny supports there. Got to get those ready, and yada yada yada. This side. I'll go over all that in the next scene. Okay, here we are in the next scene, and it is really starting to look like something now. Okay, everything you see here is glued on now. Everything's glued on. Windshield, rear glass, side view mirrors. The wing is on. I'll go over that in a second. And the headlight covers are on. Those are tiny. Let me tell you, there is no way to hold on to those. When you're putting those on, look at it. There's no place to grab those. They kind of went all over the place as I was trying to get those on. But they're on there. I'm really digging this center light. I like that. I need to do more of these race cars, more of these race type rally cars. And I got a Corvette. Guys, I know. I'm trying to resist the urge to bring another kit out here, but I've got a neat one. That okay, so I also put on the second coat on that side marker light, and I do like the way it looks now. Happy with that. What else? Okay, so yeah, windshield's glued on now. These side windows are glued on now. They weren't there before. The side, what are they called? Side view mirrors are glued on there, and they've got their little chrome pieces in there. Oh, and the trim, as you can see there, the trim is looking quite a bit better. This is where I'm going to stop with it. I have to say I'm very happy with it. Over there, remember in the last scene where I was cleaning up over here, that is all cleaned up the rest of the way. And I'm happy with it. I think that's the way I'm going to do it. I'm going to put it on, I'm going to be painting trim the best I can by hand, and then cleaning it up the rest of the way with the X-Acto. And I'll get better and better at that. But I am happy with that. Now the rear wing here, the issue that I had, boy, those little things, man, were those hard to get a hold of. The little, I'm gonna have to like turn this completely over or something. There we go. Those little things, they weren't fitting in their slots. Had to really work on the slots on both sides of the wing, and then finally get them in there. That was a tricky little thing. I know it looks like nothing, and it actually doesn't even matter, but I'm mentioning it because I'm the one that went through it. If you're building this kit, you might run into issues back there. Other than that, so I was all excited. I'm like looking at this saying, oh, look at this, I'm done. But it had occurred to me as I'm looking through the instructions to see if I missed anything, and I absolutely did. If you look in the decal strips, right at the top of the windshield, it's supposed to say Corvette, and then we got those little decals on the corners, and we've got a bow tie to go on the back window. And my windows have nothing. And so I go looking through, see, oh boy, what are the chances I actually still have these decals? And I found them. And they're in a baggie. And there they are right there. And that is an extra American flag. Confirmed. They, that is these American flags on the doors. And I've got one on each door. I don't know what happened there. I don't know what the extra one's for. But now, right now, I've got to get these decals on, which I don't mind a bit because I really like putting on decals. And we'll get those on there, and then we'll call it done. So, be right back. Okay, so we have the decals on the windshield now. Also had forgotten the wiper blade, the wiper arm and blade. And yeah, I went with that. You know what? Let me pull out the box. I went with that setup on the wiper blade. There's, yeah, here we go. Because that's the way they display it on the box in both versions. There's the number 2, and here's number 3. And I just like the way they did that. And so that's what I did. I put the wiper right there. And so also got the bow tie on the back there. And these decals were still in perfect shape. These are cartograph decals, and they're the best. So at this point now the body is completely done. And I must say, it looks good. And so I'm looking through the instructions, trying to decide if I've missed anything, and it's lucky I did, because look, there is one. There's one more step left. And so I've got the body down here. I just want to point out, in case anybody's keeping score, we've got this piece right here. And that piece, that's the leftover part. There's always going to be one. And the reason why we're going to leave that off is because that sucker goes under the dashboard, across from like right there to right there. And that dashboard is glued in, and you can't see it anyway, and so we're leaving it out. I don't know how it was that I left it off, but we're going to permanently leave it off now. So let's do that final step and see what this thing looks like all together. Okay, and there it is. Now, this model is finally done. It's been a long time. This model originally came from Chris Cortell. We had done a kind of a buddy build idea years ago. We had sent each other kits, and he, of course, the one I sent him, he of course built right away. And then I took pretty much forever to finish this one. But it is finally done, Chris. What do you think? I hope I did it justice. Let's go ahead and let it spin. That's funny, I can't get this switch to... Oh, forget it. There it goes. Alright. Now the front is not sitting all the way down on the splitter. I don't know exactly what's going on. But considering that it is a removable body, I'm fine with that. Roll cage seems to have a little bit too much space above it, but that's normal for kits that have roll cages. Now if you look at the tires here, definitely have the decals have come off. It's been sitting out here so long. If you remember the decal problems I have out in the shed, it is a bad idea to leave exposed decals in a shed. Now all the decals on the body have been under Future for all this time, but on the tires they were not, and I don't know, heat, humidity, bugs, something got them. But you know what? We're going to call that racing, rough racing. He hit the wall or something, I don't know. And so yeah, this is now a raced version. But very happy with the kit. And that's another one that is done. And at the same time, we restored the Mustang. And so it is looking better for the case now. And the wet bikes. So I'm happy about that. And at this point, we are going to be switching over to the Titan. Oh, it's up there. Chevy Titan semi that I had started, and it's I'll do an update video on that pretty soon once I have something happening. I've just been playing around with it a little bit, but that will be the current project is the Titan, and we're going to finish that before we move on. We're going to get all these kits done, and then we can move on to a more controlled, more exact type of building. But there is the Corvette C5-R. I hope everybody likes it. Sorry it took so long, but there it is. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you in the next video.